Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and tonight we have a special guest, a craniosacral guest. And in his 17 years as a craniosacral therapist, David has spent 13 years as a teaching assistant, 10 as a visiting therapist with the Uplink Clinic, and 1 as a staff on the clinic, and 7 traveling both nationally and internationally teaching craniosacral therapy 1 and craniosacral therapy 2. Together with his wife, Kate, they have spent 10 years running their own intensive program in Ireland, North Ireland, and Burlington, Vermont. They were the first recognized intensive program to run outside of the UI. So welcome tonight, David.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So, I mean, some people on here know about craniosacral, but can you kind of sum it up a little bit, what craniosacral therapy is?
Sure. You know, the elevator definition, I guess, craniosacral therapy is a gentle hands-on therapy that really helps to release restrictions and compensations in your body so that your central nervous system and whole body can function as healthy as possible. You know, what we're looking at is how your body compensates for injury, whether that's going right back to birth, whether that's car accidents, whether that's some kind of emotional piece. We're compensating around it all the time, and over time those compensations can really take hold in the fascia and affect anything from nerve function to muscle function to bone function to organ function, and we want to help your body let go of it all. And you know, one thing I like most about the therapy is the empowerment piece of it, in that we're not trying to fix anybody. We're putting our hands on and relying on that really smart place that's inside everybody already to do all the work. And we just kind of catch on and go for a ride.
So we're extensions of their body, if you want to look at it that way, right?
If you want to put it in 6 words, yeah.
Yeah. So is craniosacral therapy kind of related to myofascial release, would you say?
I think it absolutely is a form of myofascial release. Because really everything in the body is fascia, almost. And there are so many different ways of working with it, you know, whether it's acupuncture, whether it's Rolfing, whether it's like strict myofascial release. You know, cranial work, we're working with the fascia. So yeah, absolutely.
And then you just recently quit at the Uplink Institute. Can you tell us why?
You know, it was just time to spend more time with my family. I have been associated with them for a really long time, and I've had I had an amazing time as a teaching assistant with them, as an instructor for them. You know, I taught for them for, I think it was around 8 years. And you know, I got to go to some amazing places. I got to teach in Singapore. I got to teach in Iceland, and, you know, take my family to those places. And you know, when I went to massage school, if you had have told me that I would have been one day teaching craniosacral therapy in Singapore, I think my first question would have been, what's craniosacral therapy? My second would be just like, yeah, right, get out of here. So it was just time. You know, I've got 2 young kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old and a wife, and I just needed to do more to be around home and just not traveling as much.
So yeah, because with myself too, this past year I've been going to a lot of conferences, so it does take a toll on you, but it is fun in a way too. So.
Oh, you know, no question, it's fun. I get a hotel room to myself. I get to watch TV at 3 o'clock in the morning if I so choose. And you know, I get to be on a plane, which means I get to read for a while. But you're right, you know, it does take its toll. And if you're flying, and it's, you know, flying isn't as much fun as it used to be. But you know, there's absolutely really good parts to it.
Yeah, I tried bringing 10 camcorders on a plane. They go through everything and ask a lot of questions, so I've been there, done that. Yeah.
I've never tried 10.
Yeah. So you're going to be starting a new curriculum then, right?
We are. This is actually I've done little bits of teasers out on Facebook here and there, but this can be like the official moment of we are starting where I work, our clinic, my wife's and my clinic is called the New England Center for Craniosacral Therapy. And we are starting a curriculum called Integrative Craniosacral Therapy. And we are insanely excited about all the opportunities that it's going to present and the way we're actually going to be teaching it, because it's very different than a lot of craniosacral curriculums out there, and we're just really excited about it.
And what would you think, what is the big difference then, would you say, with your curriculum that you got lined up now compared to other ones?
I think a couple of the main points are, one, it's a 2-year curriculum. So up until now, within different models, there's lots of different educational models out there for learning cranial work. A lot of them are a series of 4-day continuing education workshops that you can take when you want and progress as you want to or choose not to through the curriculum. And with us, it's going to be this 2-year program that you are with the same people from the beginning to the end. So there's going to be a real sense of continuity through the entire program, and you're almost creating a real sense of community as well, because you're with the same people. One of the other points that's very, very different is that we're only taking 12 people per class, and that is different from almost all curriculums. I was talking with a friend of mine who was with one of the seminars from another company, and they did it recently, and then they were saying there was something like 80 or 90 people in the class. And, that's large. Some of the other classes can have 40, even the smaller ones have 20. There's still the chance that you can kind of slip through the cracks a little, and you can get by without really, truly, fully understanding everything that you're doing. So our idea of having just 12 people is, you're going to be looked at, and you're going to get the chance to ask every single question you have through the entire curriculum. So, we'll have a lot of support within the system. We're planning on having anywhere from 2, 3, possibly 4 teaching assistants for those 12 people. So there'll be, at least one staff for every 3 people.
That's insane.
It is. It really is. But it really...
insane in a good way. I mean,
yeah, I don't want to sound like the used car salesman, but I'm really committed to people being as good as they possibly can be. And, one of the things I started for existing craniosacral therapists, we've got a curriculum called Become a Better Therapist, which takes the current levels of core training and expands upon them, almost like a study. They're not a study group, but study groups can take the material and really expand on it. We're doing these 3-day classes, so for people after like a first level cranial course who've got a set of basic palpation skills, we're taking it and just deepening it and deepening it. And what we're doing with our curriculum is entwining all of that in there, so that you're really, really going to know your stuff when you leave. People are going to be great craniosacral therapists. And for me, part of that is making sure that there's the staff on hand so that you can get your questions answered.
And what kind of training are these staff members going to have then?
They are going to, I'm coming from an upledger world, and I've got friends in the visionary world and in the biodynamic world as well. What I'm looking for is that they've got a really good ability to palpate the tissues, palpate what's going on, feel everything that's going on, but more importantly, really be able to answer questions for people and feel really confident in knowing the material. It's one thing, because this is a new curriculum, we haven't had anybody go through it yet, but we have a lot of friends who are very familiar with what we're doing. So it's, there's kind of a tailoring, a grooming of therapists coming along that we're going to be selecting as assistants.
Okay. And then when you taught before and stuff, I mean, was it really big classes usually too? And
I've taught anywhere from classes of 9. One of my first classes had 12 people in it, and I actually had 9 teaching assistants. It was
what?
Yeah, you were going fucking insane. That was insane.
Yeah.
And I've taught upwards of, I think the biggest class I taught was around 60 people. So, there's really something to be said for the different models. The bigger classes, there's a tremendous amount of energy to them, and there's everybody experiencing stuff and asking questions, and it's a great environment. There's also something to be said for the smaller classes, and I will say that I personally prefer the smaller classes because I can get to know everybody's name. I might be able to learn everybody's name in a 60-person class, but that doesn't mean I know who they are. In a 9-person, a 10-person, a 15-person class, I know who people are, and I can help them on a way more personal level because I get to know what their profession is and how to help them really clinically apply the work.
And with the with the class sizes, do you have to have a mandatory amount to run these classes then, or do you ideally you'd like 12 and stuff?
Ideally, I'd like 12. It's one of the ways that we're structuring this, and again, this is different. We're not going to have, except for the first class coming up, we're going to be running one out of Burlington spring. It's not like there's going to be a schedule of, we're starting a curriculum on the West Coast or in, Topeka, Kansas, or wherever it might be. Because we're looking for just 12 people, what we're actually doing is saying, if you want a class to come to you, we can look at doing that. So if there are people, in Topeka, Kansas, or in out west or wherever it might be, and they have a group of 12 people that want to have a curriculum, then get in touch with us and we will work at putting it together in the best timing for you. One of the things I hear a lot with, and I'm sure you hear it as well when you're traveling costs are getting really expensive.
Yeah.
From airfares to hotels, and it's food, and you're not necessarily getting to write all of it off all the time. This way, if we could tailor a class specifically to someone out there, then you could go through an entire 2-year curriculum of craniosacral therapy from beginning to end, including a certification, and not have to leave home, and be able to do it in your hometown or within a reasonable distance so that you can maybe sleep in your own bed at night and not have to worry about flying or taking the train or renting a hotel room.
So it's almost like online education, but not really. So you're getting the hands-on portion too and stuff. So that's what it seems like, right?
Yeah, it's online in person.
Yeah. So you kind of have to show what you're actually doing too. So that's what's nice about it, because online is great for the most part, but sometimes it's harder. So especially with craniosacral therapy, you really got to be able to feel the rhythm too.
Oh, absolutely. And you need to be able to get change in the tissue. What we're looking for is that you can put your hands on and you can get change in the tissue. Anybody can put their hands on. It's like massage. There's some people who put their hands on and give you a massage, and it feels like they're elbows deep inside your tissue and just really moving everything around. And then there's some people who put their hands on you and you're just kind of, waiting.
Yeah.
Crickets and tumbleweed are blowing by, and you're not getting them. So yeah, there's a really big practical portion to this to make sure that you are getting your hands on and you're actually getting change in the tissue.
And have you ever run into students every now and then they just cannot feel the rhythm?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that doesn't last. I've yet to find anybody in 8 years of teaching that hasn't felt the rhythm by the end of the first 4-day class. They might not be feeling it every single time they put their hands on, but everybody gets it. And it's changed so much. I remember when I took cranial work, it was like, I think 17 years ago or something like that. It took me about 2 weeks after the first class. And it was, I'm amazed that I'm where I'm at because I couldn't feel anything, but I just kept going and going and going. And there's such a, it's kind of hunter to monkey syndrome. There's so many people doing it now, and there's so many people familiar with it, and you still get people who can't feel it, but it's rare, and by spending a bit more time with them, they always end up getting it.
Okay, that definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. CranioSacral therapy, you want to be able to feel the rhythm.
Yeah. And are there certain holds that you can feel the rhythm better, would you say?
I think that really depends on what's going on in the person. It depends on how they are able to, or how their body is going to manifest, how the fascia is going to manifest the rhythm. Some people, you find that you can feel it really, really good on the legs or on the hips, and then you get up to the head and you can't feel a thing because things are just really, really tight, really stuck in the head. Other people, it might be the exact opposite, where you can just feel this great rhythm along the head and down into the sacrum, and on the extremities you can't feel anything. So it's just different for everybody, because everybody is going to be tight fascially in their own unique way. And what that generally does is make it really frustrating for therapists when they're first learning, because it's like they can feel the rhythm, they're doing great, and then it's gone. And then they can feel it and it's gone. And I get people calling me saying, it's like I can feel it everywhere but on the thighs. And it's find out who you're working with, and it could be there's just restrictions there. And once they've worked on it, once they've released it, then you can all of a sudden start feeling it in the thighs. And the other piece in there that sometimes it's a bit of an aha moment for people is, if on a client there's one area that you just absolutely can't feel it, if you have 40 people come in and you can never feel a craniosacral rhythm on their shoulders, I can almost guarantee you where you have an issue. Because if you're really tight in your shoulders, it's quite possible it's manifesting that you're not going to be able to feel it on people on your table.
Okay. And then I had a question. How do you deal with skeptics? I mean, some people are just, that's energy work, or that I don't believe in that kind of stuff. And you're going to run into have you heard of quackwatch.org?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They just rip
Stephen Barrett and Quackwatch.
Yeah.
The thing with skeptics is I really appreciate a healthy skepticism. And there's people out there who get into this work and are not looking at the how important a left brain is, how important it is to be able to question things. And really, whether it's cranial work or Rolfing or whatever it might be, there needs to be a left brain component to it. Having spent a bunch of time with Dr. John Upledger, he's got one of the biggest left brains I know. And I think questioning anything is really healthy. And what I've had people in classes who have said, I had one person who stand up during their introduction and said, I don't believe any of this, and I'm here because I need CEUs. It's like, excellent, this is going to be fun. And I said to them, it's like, all right, great, fine. Thank you for being honest with where you're at. But what I'd like to ask you to do is for the next, 4 days, just give it a chance. Just be open-minded. And by the third day, they stood up and they're like, you know what? I'm really, really sorry. And because I really get that this stuff works. And my initial response was, man, don't apologize. Don't apologize for being skeptical. Don't apologize for questioning stuff, because that's how you learn. I think one of the bigger pieces, people are, they cite all kinds of studies of like cranial bones don't move, and there's this, how can there be a rhythm because the brain doesn't move? Well, cranial bones do move. If you take a look at sutures, we do a lot of dissection work. The Upledger Institute has a dissection class where you're getting in and doing dissection work, and it's unpreserved tissue, so you can see the sutures, you can see movement, you can see blood, you can see fluid. A friend of mine recently sent me a couple of pictures, and I can put them up on the website probably, maybe tonight or tomorrow at this point, of a skull, and you can see blood within the sutures. And really, these bones do move. Not sure what version it is, but one of the latest edition of Gray's Anatomy is talking about how, I don't know their exact wording, so I'm going to paraphrase, and I might not get it exactly right, but the cranial bones, that there's sutures between the cranial bones, and that there's, I don't know if the words are like there's possibility for movement, but that there's sutural material in there. So why are we going to be designed with these different form, different shaped sutures and material between the sutures if the bones don't move? So there's healthy skepticism is okay, but when it gets into this like fanaticism where you just have to disprove anything just because, I don't know, in my opinion, you're just really angry and have bigger issues. What purpose is that serving? There's so many people who are looking at medicine and saying, well, you have to have this kind of study and you have to be able to reproduce it and you have to be able to do that. And okay, if that's what you need to do, but you could also take a look at, since in the past 40 years, how many people have been helped with, we're talking about craniosacral therapy, with craniosacral therapy. And what I really think we would be great is if people just started publishing case studies, kind of like chiropractic did. You got back pain, here we treated it, this is what happened. And the more we do that, the more we get people doing that, I really think we can help move the therapy forward even more.
Why do you think therapists don't do that much with case studies and stuff? And do you think they're just not taught how to do case studies then, or?
I think that's probably part of it. I also think it's really intimidating for people to all of a sudden think you have to do research, and then not only are you doing your research, but you're putting it out there for people to read. And my experience with a lot of therapists is they're really happy being in their room. They like being around their massage table and their books and their skulls and things like that. But putting it out there is not everybody's cup of tea. And I think if there was a bigger, different educational piece in there to teach them how to write proper case studies, I think that would be great and would be really helpful.
So I see a curriculum in the future for you to write that, how to do this stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll be right there with you. We can do it together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's other people who are really good at that.
Yeah. And for your program, how many is there a certain hours in all that they get for this then, or a certain number of continuing education credits they get with this?
Yeah, there's going to be, the classes are going to be 4 days long, and they'll be the kind of standard 9 a.m. until 5:30. So I think that works out at the six hours per day. So they'll be getting, 24 credits per class. And how it's going to work is there will be within the 2 years, it's going to be 8 classes. So there's a ton of continuing education in there, and we're NCBTMB certified for continuing education. So there's a lot of hours in there.
So 24 for sure to start with, and then over that 2-year period, how many would you say in all then, or have you decided how many total?
I haven't even decided that yet. That's an excellent question, and I haven't even got there. But that's something that's easily enough to figure out. Just not at the moment.
Okay. And have you guys decided on the price yet then?
What we're looking at for a price is probably around $650 per class. And I know there are people out there who are probably going, oh my God, $650 for a class. But considering what we're offering, I actually think my personal opinion is that's a steal. When you look at other classes where you're getting, my friend who just did this other continuing ed workshop with tons of people in there, paid close to $700. And so if you're paying $700 for that many people, paying $650 for a class with 12 people, and that much one-on-one supervision. And it's not only that, but what we're offering between classes, because one of the big pieces that we've noticed is that you'll go and you'll take your curriculum, you'll take your class, and then you go off, and there isn't a lot of support always. There can be study groups that you can go to, and there might be people in your area, there might not, that you can mentor with. What we're adding in there, which is unique to any program out there, is we're offering a monthly teleseminar for everybody who's in the curriculum. So you take your class, and then every month after that, every month during the curriculum, we're on the phone for 60 to 90 minutes once a month, checking in with you, seeing how you're doing, what kind of questions you have, if you have questions about the technique, about the curriculum, about if you're doing something properly, if something's coming up for you. So there's a continual support through the entire thing. So when I kind of broke down the money piece, when I looked at what could be charged and then what was realistic, because I want to keep this affordable for people, but I also want to let people know that they're getting this is going to be a really, in my opinion, my humble opinion, this is going to be a really good program.
Definitely. So, I mean, the individual attention is worth its weight in gold, basically, too. It's.
Oh my God, yeah. It's everything, and I would love to be able, offer the one-on-one class of like, all right, you're going to have your own curriculum, which is why I want to have a lot of support and a lot of staff there as well.
And are you going to have something where the people taking the classes can communicate with each other throughout this whole time, or even other people that have taken your classes too, then?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
There's we're toying with the idea of having adding to the teleseminar at some point, maybe once a quarter or something, where old students, but former students can be part of the call as well, or have a video conference, or people who are local. If we've all of a sudden run 2 programs in, I don't know, Los Angeles or something like that, that we could have the other people come in and be a part of it. Because I think there's something really important about connecting with the people who've been there before, and that what is going on, what's happening throughout the entire program. It's my experience with people learning craniosacral therapy, and I'm a massage therapist, and when I went to massage school in Toronto, and it was I want to say it was either 24 or 2,600 hour program, and it's really overwhelming at times because there's just so much information. And the same can be said in a continuing education thing, whether it's cranial work, whether it's myofascial work, whatever it might be. There are moments in the class when people are just overwhelmed with the amount of information and trying to learn this new skill. And I'm imagining the same is going to be true through a 2-year curriculum. So if we can have people who've been through it before come back and offer their support and, sit down and just have like a round table of like, this is what it's like, then again, that's a huge addition to a curriculum and helping people learn.
Oh, big time. And then, are you going to teach outside of the United States too again, would you say? Are you going to try to bring it into like Canada or Mexico or these other places?
Yes, everywhere. Call me. Bali. Really want to run a class in Bali. But seriously, I'm really open to doing this wherever. And it's the different format of, if you've got this amount of people, depending on where it is, we might have to alter the price structure a little, to make it affordable and realistic for me to get over there. But it's I'm open to going wherever. Okay. I have my passport.
Even the North Pole?
I love elves.
Yeah.
And, I don't think Santa, he only works 1 day a week, I think, or 1 day a year. He can afford a few continuing education.
Yeah. And
you could probably use some body work on the 26th.
Big time. And what would you say your ideal student would be?
Oh, that's a good question. Really someone who wants to learn, someone who is open-minded, someone who is, there's two ways of answering this question. One is someone who has been in a profession for a while, someone who's been in the bodywork field and wants to learn something new. I come from a pretty big, deep tissue background. And I was so happy when I discovered craniosacral therapy because it's so light, and it just saved my thumbs and wrists and elbows and my body. So having someone who's got a lot of experience in a manual therapy field can be great because they've just got that kind of knowledge to bring to a class. Having said that, one of the things I really appreciate about everything that Dr. Upledger did was open this work up to the masses and say, you know what, anybody could do this work. You don't have to be a manual therapist. What happens is if you're wanting to practice, depending on your state, you'll need to get a license to touch someone. But some of the best therapists I know started out in completely separate professions. Nothing to do with body work. They took it because maybe their kid was getting some treatment or they'd heard about it and they just wanted to try it. And now they're just these phenomenal therapists. So really I guess the common denominator out of the whole thing, my ideal student is someone who is willing to bring their left brain to a class and their right brain and their willingness to learn. One of the other pieces that we're adding into the curriculum, which this is something that I've put into the Become a Better Therapist curriculum that we run, is we take a look, once you've been practicing a little, what kind of limiting beliefs you're setting in motion or you have in motion. Because there are so many people out there who are practicing, who are maybe just learning craniosacral therapy or who are learning a technique, and they get into it and all of a sudden start thinking, oh, well, I'm not really good at this and I can't do this, or I'm never going to be as good as, Joe is, or there's so many different tapes that can be running in place. And those limiting belief systems really are coming from somewhere else in our history. And we've got some really simple techniques to take a look at those limiting beliefs and change them, because really those limiting beliefs, you can consider them almost energetic drains on our system. There's something always running in the background that's just draining energy from us because we're really attached, valid or not, to I'm never going to be as good as this person. So if we can take those limiting beliefs and change them from an energetic drain to this energetic source of power almost, that you can then draw energy from it to help make yourself a better therapist, it can change everything. So part of it also for the ideal student is people who are going to be okay looking at their stuff. You're not going to go through a 2-year curriculum and not have issues come up. And part of being within the cranial world anyways, you want to be a good therapist, you need to look at your issues. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to do every issue that everybody has in the entire world. You got to do your issues and kind of dive into your trenches. So we will take a look at how to work with those and keep your brains functioning.
And that brings up an issue I had 8 years ago. That was the first time I received craniosacral therapy work, and it scared the living crap out of me.
Excellent. Sign up now, everybody.
No, I'm just because it brought up tons of emotions when my sister was killed by a drunk driver in 1999. it just felt so real. But I actually liked it in a way because I was starting to deal with it then. Because again, I repressed that the emotions and dealing with those kind of that pain all those years and stuff. But it brought it up. But I think I was ready to deal with it too. Maybe I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, yeah. First, sorry, really sorry that happened. And the emotional piece, absolutely, it can scare people, and myself included. What I will say is that when it comes up, absolutely, your body's ready to deal with it, and it's, even if it seems like the most overwhelming thing in the world, on whatever level, the part of you that is organizing your life, because there's some part of us that is just, that knows everything that's going on in us, that it knows that you then have to take the kids to soccer practice, and then you have to go and pick up a turkey for dinner, and that you have this big, huge emotional thing that you have to deal with as well. And people might be on the table just going like, "Oh my God, really? Why now?" Because it's time, and it's, the idea that Dr. Upledger helped work with, and other people are working with, the somato-emotional release idea of just tissues have the ability to hold on to emotion, as you know, and as a lot of people know, and you hold on to it until you have the resources to deal with them. We don't always have, if something really traumatic happens, you don't necessarily have the resources at the time to deal with it right then and there. So you hold on to it until you do. And that might be a week later, it might be a year later, it might be 10 years later. But you eventually do gather all the resources you have, and it can come out. And it's a really, some people say it's a really liberating feeling once you're done, because all of a sudden you have, if I've got this area that I'm holding on to stuff and then I let it out, there's all this freedom in your body. And I don't know if that was your experience, that after it was over that you felt different.
Yeah, I felt almost blah. I didn't know what to think. Kind of just because it was such a shock to me in a way too. So, and Matthew Howie, he says issues in the tissues.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, the feelings people get afterwards, the blah feeling, sometimes they're really energized, sometimes people feel really lousy afterwards. Sometimes they, as that emotion, as that memory comes out of the tissue, sometimes it's not like you're right back then and there, because obviously you're not, but on some level you've got that memory coming out from right then and there. So there can be times where people are, for 2-3 days afterwards, are feeling kind of, really achy, if it's been a car accident, or they could be feeling really emotional, they could be feeling really down. And we just tell people, or at least I tell people, just to look after yourselves, whatever that is. I'm not one of these people who says you have to do certain things as stuff comes up. Is water a good idea? Sure, because you're detoxing stuff out of your tissue. Do you have to go home and eat kale? Maybe, not necessarily. Sometimes you need a pint of Ben and Jerry's. Sometimes you need a glass of wine. Sometimes you need a glass of lemonade. Sometimes you need a cookie. Maybe you do want a kale shake. But we're so used to, you have to do this. I'm releasing stuff from my body. I have to go exercise. I have to go do yoga, and I have to have a spirulina and kale and broccoli shake. No, maybe you go home and have a nap, and then wake up and have a cookie and go for a walk. And it's really about listening to your body. And what we find is that after that 2 or 3 day period, that people then just start feeling in a more balanced state.
And do you see that more people have in these emotions? I mean, is it sometimes with the first time treatment, or once they feel more comfortable with the therapist, or sometimes if they first time they saw the therapist too? What would you say would?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes to all the. We'll just leave it at that.
there can there are times where I've had first-time clients who you put your hands on and you work, and they're just off to the races, and they're just going, and there's emotional stuff coming out. There are times when I worked on people, and nothing. It's just all big structural stuff that they never do anything emotional on the table at all. Then there are times of people who are just, as they get more comfortable in their body and they start exploring around it, then it can come out. And I think one of the things with emotions that a lot of people assume that a big cathartic emotion has to be this big, huge explosion of emotion that coming out of a person. And really, some of the most important cathartic, life-changing emotional releases that I've seen people have been like one tiny little tear coming out of the corner of their eye. And that it's what's significant for them. I'm not saying that people don't need to have the big, huge emotional piece, because some people do. And I really think that sometimes it happens to get your attention, because you want to, there's something inside that says, hey, this really needs looking at, and yeah, we're going to make you look at it. And then there are some times when it's just how it comes out. There's another thought I had in there, but it's completely left my brain. So if it comes back, I'll let you know.
Okay. And the whole unwinding state, I mean, not a lot of, would you say some clients get into the unwinding state where sometimes their body might be moving around a little bit during the time? And
oh, absolutely. And we are so encouraging that now. I'm just like, this is a really nice segue. There's, so many roads to go here. With trauma that can happen, if you think about, trauma doesn't just happen when you're in a static position. It's not like you're just sitting on your chair and then a trauma happens and you don't move around it. There's a dynamic thing happening with movement, and your body can move around the incident as it's happening. And there are times as your body is letting go of that maybe your arm, does need to release. You can get people whose whole body starts to move. And I think one of the big pieces that at least Dr. Upledger brought into the work was this whole idea of the significance indicator, where you can tune into what is significant in the person's body for them at that moment, and really help keep the treatment in this therapeutically significant place, so that if someone is going into a whole body unwinding, then you can help them keep it kind of real for the moment. As far as the movement, what we're finding is movement can really help your nervous system release. I don't know if you or how many people are familiar with the work of a guy by the name of Peter Levine, but he has done a lot of work around trauma, and he's studied animals. And I don't remember if it's like an antelope or a gazelle that he cites as his example, but one of the examples he uses, he's got a book, Waking the Tiger, and in it he talks about, if you look at like on a National Geographic special, you see the gazelle running down the plain and the cheetah that's chasing it, and then the cheetah gets the gazelle, drags it back to its lair. If the cheetah leaves the gazelle alone, it's possible then that the gazelle could get away, and if you watch it, it will then go off and stand in a place that it's really secluded and really safe, and do nothing but shake and twitch. The whole, like, it will just, its legs will be shaking and its whole body will just be twitching and twitching and twitching, just completely discharging the nervous system and allowing it to release the effects of trauma. And then it goes running off, and he also talks in his book about how if you look at like a herd of gazelle, that if you watch them, they'll be happily grazing and doing their thing. And then if they hear like a twig break, the whole herd will go on to alert. And then they'll realize as a group that the danger's not there, so it'll calm down. And then another twig or something happens, the whole group goes on alert again and then calms down. If you pay attention to them in their calming state as they're feeding or going about their business, they're twitching, their whole body's just shaking and shaking and shaking for a few minutes until it relaxes. What we're working a lot with right now is helping people do this. And what we're finding is that as you're lying on the table and getting your cranial treatment, we'll tell people, you know what, just tune into your body, feel the sensation inside your system. It doesn't, not necessarily the emotional sensation, but the physical sensation. And allow, your fingers to start to wiggle, or your toes to start to wiggle, or maybe a hand, or maybe an arm, or a leg. And when you're paying attention to the tissue, as people start discharging this nervous system piece, it's amazing the shifts that happen in the tissues from many different perspectives. It's Kate, my wife, was saying the other day that if you look at soft tissue has the ability to hold on to emotion. The nervous system is really black and white. It's very practical. It's on a survival level. And a lot of times what's happening with trauma is, if it's big enough, you're actually in this place of wondering if you're going to survive. Let's say a big car accident or something else on a big magnitude. And you might survive, but your nervous system might still be in that place of am I going to live through this? And so then you might be having a nervous system that is just working on an elevated level, which means then your soft tissues are also going to be working on an elevated level. So helping the nervous system to discharge by letting it move. Our nervous systems need flexibility to them. We're used to talking about flexibility of muscles and soft tissues. Not a lot of people, lots of people are talking about it, but in the manual therapy world, it's getting there, but we need to be talking about flexibility, autonomic nervous system flexibility. And when there is tension in the system, when there's tightness in the system, you're not going to have that flexibility. So it's bringing movement back into the tissues. It's helping people recognize that, you did survive. You're lying on the table, you're actually alive. You did survive. And bringing that awareness into the system. And what we're really helping people get that. And this again, coming to our curriculum, the integrative curriculum, we're bringing how to work with this into the system and into our training. So not only are you going to be getting how to work with the soft tissues and help restrictions release from, sprained ankles or surgeries or whatever it might be, but it's also going to be how to help the nervous system relax and get flexibility back into the nervous system. And this is a really significant change within manual therapy, not necessarily specific to us. There's other therapies out there that are using it. There's a guy by the name of Stephen Porges, who is out of the University of Maryland, I believe, and he has come up with something called the polyvagal theory. And this is a way of, he's kind of redefined the autonomic nervous system. He's added a different piece to it. We're used to the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, but he's discovered a different portion. He's calling it the social nervous system. And what he's realizing is that with trauma, we go through, we've got these different kind of evolutionarily layers that we go through, and we used our most advanced skills first. And so we go to if trauma happens, we try and look cute or not cute, or we try and talk our way out of it. And if that doesn't work, then we go into our sympathetic and our fight or flight. And then if that doesn't work, then we can actually go into this freeze state. And this happens so often in the people who, with an extreme enough trauma where your survival maybe is in question, maybe kidnapping or or abuse, where you just don't know that you're actually going to get out of there or survive. What he's found is that the Vegas has actually, there's a couple of different Vegases. There's the one we're all used to, but then there's another one, and that there's cells that migrate forward and actually come out of the front of the spinal cord, and they're involved with mediating this social response. But they also, in extreme cases, what your Vegas can do is actually get you ready for death. You know, it puts you into an immobilized state, a freeze state is what he talks about. And this freeze state, that's actually what's happening with the gazelle. You know, if you think about the cheetah that's chasing the gazelle and you see the cheetah get it and then the gazelle goes limp, the gazelle actually goes limp first before the cheetah even gets it, because it floods itself with, I don't know, chemicals, hormones that do a series of things. One, increases your pain tolerance. Two, decreases your metabolism, because, you know, really, who cares about the Snickers bar if you're being chased by a cheetah? And in extreme cases, it's getting you ready for that transition to, you know, death possibly. So there are so many people who are walking around with that frozen place in us, you know, from anything, you know, from a car accident, from an abusive situation, from something where it's just, you've been in this place of just like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ever going to get out of this. And these freeze states are what are really limiting autonomic flexibility. And in bringing flexibility back to these frozen places, these immobilized places, it just changes people. And what it's also doing, you know, you get the people who come in who say, you know what, I've got this issue. I've got this emotional issue, and it's this big, and it's right on my chest. Sometimes getting people into the nervous system piece and having them feel it on a sensation level and discharge it out of the nervous system takes the emotional piece from here and then brings it down to like here. And then they can be like, oh, okay, that's what the issue is. And sometimes it means that you don't go into that big, huge, cathartic emotional release. Sometimes you do, because sometimes that's exactly what you need. But sometimes if you can discharge the energetic, the nervous system piece, you can then take a look at the emotional piece and be like, oh yeah, that really kind of sucked. but it did survive, and then you can move through it.
So does this guy have a book then?
Maybe.
Nope.
I don't think he has a book, but if you do a search, just do like a Google search for the polyvagal, Polyvagal theory. And the guy's name is Stephen with a PH, so Stephen, Porges, Porges. And it's really current. I think it's within the past 10 years anyways, I believe. And it really is redefining the autonomic nervous system, but also how manual therapies can work with trauma. And we are insanely excited that we're bringing this into a cranial curriculum, because cranial work is so much known for working with trauma, and this is going to be a really nice addition to it.
Okay, awesome. And then Upledger he's kind of known for working on autistic and children with disabilities, and also children too, right? And I remember many years ago down in Florida, wasn't it Conjoined Twins or something? Yeah,
he had the opportunity. These kids were joined at the head, and they were, I believe they came from the hospital anyways. Was in Dallas, and think he might have gone over there, but then they also came over to the Institute and he had the chance to work with them. And I don't know all the ins and all outs and details of it all, but I know that the doctors who were associated with it were pretty impressed with what John was able to feel and what they were able to accomplish. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, I guess when you get to a certain level, you get all kinds of people calling you and saying, "Hey, what about this? Try this." Okay, sure, try it.
And how important is the still point, would you say?
Oh, I think it's hugely important. Still point comes from this guy, William Sutherland, he was the developer of cranial osteopathy. And still point, he really felt like it was like the technique that he had invented, and it really allows your whole nervous system a chance to just relax. It's like shutting your computer down for a couple of seconds, just it's like rebooting it, because it just allows your whole nervous system to just relax. And it's just a tremendously beneficial technique for almost anything. There are contraindications around it because you're changing fluid pressure in the head, that you want to stay away from any kind of conditions where changing that fluid pressure could be detrimental, like someone who's like a recent stroke or a known aneurysm or things like that. But there's even actual devices that you can buy, like still point inducers. The Upledger Institute sells them. There's a new one out on the market right now called the Cranial Cradle, by a woman, Barb Richmond, I think she's in Florida. But I love the Cranial Cradle. It's this new, just a new still point inducer, but you can use it anywhere on the body, which is very different. You can even use it to do passive range of motion with your neck, which is really nice. So, everybody who comes in our clinic gets the opportunity to buy one.
Yeah, because I myself, the first time I tried the Cranial Cradle was in the World Massage Festival, and I actually had to stop because it was relaxing me so much, and I had to go. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Barb's come up with a great product,
yeah.
And I'm excited for her about that. And it's the still point inducers, whatever kind you use, even if the whole thing started, the idea of a still point inducer started because he took a couple of Dr. John Upledger, he took a couple of tennis balls and tied them at the end of a sock, and then he was using them on the back of his head and found that worked, and then that does work. And then I remember I tried it when I lived in Toronto, and my dog didn't like having her tennis balls taken away from her. So I was lying on them in a sock, and all of a sudden they were ripped out from behind my head, and the dog was swinging them back and forth, and like I was being beaten about the head with two tennis balls, like this little canine billy club. And that's not really relaxing. But it was, whether you make your own or buy one, they're just, I travel with one wherever I go. I'm lying on mine in airports and hotel rooms and anywhere I can.
Yeah. And then somebody in the chat says, I've heard they cause pressure on the vertebral arteries, and they have been incidences of stroke. Is that true? Have you heard any?
I haven't heard of that at all. If you're using them properly, you're actually putting them on the bones of your occiput. So even at the back of your neck, if you're using it as a suboccipital muscle release, you're not going to be engaging the vertebral artery at all. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, but it's one of those things I would have heard about as an instructor. I haven't heard anything like that.
And I think with the cranial cradle too, it's so soft too. I don't think it would be hard to do any damage too. I think with that.
Yeah, and like I said, the biggest contraindications that we have with this, and this is with not just a still point on the head, but still points anywhere on the body, is changing fluid pressure. And it's not just still points. you want to stay away from cranial work. If someone comes in and says, I'm having a stroke, you might not be saying, well, lie down. Let me work on you a little bit, or if in the middle of an aneurysm or something like that, there's stuff you want to go at more medically. But if things are stable inside, things are stable in your head, it's that. But yeah, there shouldn't be any issue with it.
Okay. And then I think I saw something a long time ago about craniosacral therapy in dolphins at all. Have you heard anything with animals or?
Yeah, it's great. Love working with dolphins. They're one thing, they're way smarter than we are. Dolphins are so much fun to work with. They've just got this amazing intelligence, and they have an ability when you're working in the water with them that, if you're working on a client, they can kind of do their little dolphin thing and swim around, and then when they come up, where they put their either their like nose or their rostrum is usually right where there's a restriction, and you just can feel this blast of energy coming to the person, and you can feel things release. It's an amazing experience working with them, but it's also an amazing experience working with pretty much any animal. I've worked with horses, and I've worked with dogs, and worked on a crab once. That was interesting. And you really realize that all animals have this innate intelligence that we all do, and everybody, whether you're human, whether you're animal, is really working towards an optimum state of health, whatever that is, and being able to help them. It's great. There's people who use horses as forms of therapy, and why not? I'm open for working with anybody and everybody or anything.
And with craniosacral therapy, do people usually when they perform craniosacral therapy on a client, is it usually just craniosacral therapy throughout the whole treatment, or is it maybe just a part of the treatment?
I think that depends on so many factors, on the therapy being done and who the person is. When I first started doing this, I started just incorporating it into my massage. So one of the techniques that you're shown in cranial work is with the basic suboccipital muscle release, but we take it a little bit further, and we actually help disengage, I guess is a good way of putting it, but loosen the bones between the occiput and the first vertebrae, which then allows you to get in and traction the whole dural tube down the spinal cord. So that's a really easy thing to put into a massage, once you've got them flipped over and you're working on their head and neck. There are people who absolutely slip in cranial work here and there. Some people, will do like half an hour of massage and then half an hour of cranial work. I know of PTs and chiropractors who have 10 or 15-minute windows, who will, maybe put on their TENS unit or do whatever it is they're doing, and then do some cranial work as well. So it really depends on the clinical setting and the comfort level. And, for where I'm at right now, that's all I do. I just do craniosacral therapy. Every once in a while I do a massage, but I doubt I'm averaging one a year.
And have you ever performed craniosacral therapy in the water?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah, absolutely. It is the coolest thing ever.
Your eyes just lit up there.
Oh my God, so much. Well, part of the excitement is I actually just I taught a class down in Florida. I developed a class for craniosacral therapists around this significance detector that I was talking about earlier, but actually working in the water and helping work through that limiting belief system and help really get that significance detector piece. Water is really amazing because it takes gravity out of the picture pretty much, because you're just floating. And you were asking the question about unwinding earlier. People's bodies just start moving in these weird and wonderful ways. And where you might get X amount of work done in a 1 hour treatment session on a table on land, you might do the same amount of work in like 10 minutes in the water, or 15. And you have this three-dimensional like buoyancy that you can work with, and it makes such a difference in people, and especially when you get into the multi-hand setting and have more people working on one person, the body can just move all over the place. Yeah, it's so cool. Love it.
And have you heard of Watsu therapists? If people don't know what Watsu is, it's a water shiatsu, basically in the water. Do they incorporate it too? Have you heard, or is it more like physical therapist? Or
I don't know. I've heard of it, and I've never had it, but I know. Yeah, I don't really know that much about it.
Okay. And then with what kind of different classes are you going to be offering? Different classes then too, different types. What types? Just to back it up, what types of craniosacral therapy are there out there? I mean, you talked about cranioscopy, tongue tie. Yeah.
It's late. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's different schools. I think the bigger schools around for cranial work, Upledger, Hugh Milne's got his visionary craniosacral therapy. There's biodynamic craniosacral therapy. I think those are kind of the biggest of the schools. As far as what classes we offer, we're going to have our core curriculum, and outside of that, there's different classes that I'm offering for existing craniosacral therapists and people who were going to be existing craniosacral therapists. I've got a class that works just on the soft palate. So you're getting in and helping all the muscles release in the soft palate, getting in and working on like the pterygoid processes, and actually getting in, as things open up, you can actually get in and work internally right back to like the vertebrae. And work on the soft tissue attaching to the vertebrae. We've got a class coming up that's going to be working just on the eye. So really having big impacts, hopefully, on vision and how to work with releasing trauma and restrictions and compensations out of the whole visual system. We are going to, my wife, Kate, is putting together a whole series of anatomy classes and helping manual therapists work with, systems like working with the heart and lung system or the endocrine system, and really getting in and working from teaching about palpation and how to work with it. So those are kind of the biggest lateral classes we have. We've got the class I was just talking about with the significance detector and working with limiting beliefs. One thing we're wanting to do is have our classes be open to any of the schools. And again, integrative craniosacral therapy, we want someone who maybe has done the visionary work or who has been through the biodynamic training who might want to try this out. I want to be able to say, absolutely, you don't have to go back to the beginning, because you should have a certain level of competency at some point. But once we've found out what level you're at, then you could maybe, start in the second year. I've got some people already who are interested, who've been through a certain amount of training, who have achieved a certain level of competency within craniosacral therapy, that we're looking at putting a program together for them of just the second year, because they don't need to go right back to the beginning. So we're always looking at ways of developing and looking at new classes and new curriculum. But for right now, that's kind of where we're at.
So you have a lot on your plate, basically, right?
A lot on my plate, and I have 2 kids and a dog and 3 chickens and a gerbil.
Yeah.
And apparently we have to buy Christmas gifts for them all.
Yeah.
Is Santa going to bring gifts for the chickens?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
but they are vegetarians.
Yes, carrots. Here you go. About carrots.
And what I'm saying is craniosacral therapy. That term I think is outdated because it seems like there's so much that branches out from there. I mean, so many areas of the body. Would you say, or do you think the term craniosacral will stick forever?
I think that that's around. I think that's a really, yeah, I don't think it's outdated. I think I think there's room for change underneath maybe the umbrella of the name of craniosacral therapy.
Okay.
But I think I think it's here to stay because it's, it goes back to that guy William Sutherland as well. He talked about the craniosacral. I don't remember exactly how he used it, but he talked about it. So it's, yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. Just just different versions, different. As this work progresses, as with any work, it's going to change, hopefully, and what I believe is going to stay the same is the core intent to it all, the core belief system behind it all, and then how that gets implemented and how that gets taught. That can change. But it's, I tell people in classes, it's like really good music. Cranial work's been around for so long, and it's the core principles behind it have stayed the same. Again, like good ABBA, Bee Gees, good music.
It is.
Led Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, Barbra Streisand. I don't
know. And with cranial work, is it okay to get massage beforehand and then cranial, or is it better to have cranial and then massage?
I just think that's a personal preference.
Okay, so it doesn't affect it either way. So
no. Yeah, no, if anything, what I'd recommend for people is to, maybe grab one of those still point inducers, and if they've got, I've got some friends who have, they've got a couple of treatment rooms, and they'll have someone kind of getting ready for their massage, and so they'll have them lie down on a still point inducer for 10 or 15 minutes before the treatment, and that way when they can start doing the massage, the tissues are just more relaxed.
And what I usually tell my students too is, craniosacral therapy is even for a few minutes before you start the massage treatment too. It's just a nice way to relax the client beforehand. And
sure, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. It's one of those things. It's a set of tools that can be put in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places throughout a treatment.
And is there actually classes out there to teach therapists how to perform it on animals, or do you just kind of pick that up in a way?
There are classes out there for small animals. There's classes for I think probably the more common one is working with horses, and there's different people around who are doing cranial work on animals and on horses. And I don't know if it's certainly a growing field, or I don't know how much of it it's just kind of entering my awareness now, so it seems really big. But it's certainly been around for a while.
And where do you see all of your stuff going in the next few years? What is your vision, I would say? Making you think late. Yeah.
What I really would like to accomplish with all of this is putting together a really solid program that just gets known for training good craniosacral therapists, or training people how to be good craniosacral therapists. I don't necessarily think we're trying to take over the craniosacral world, because there's room out there for so many different schools, and so because there's different learning styles for people, or at least everybody has different learning styles. So our model might not be right for this person, but this one is. So I would just like to develop our pocket of it and create a therapy, or create an educational model that is known for just producing really good quality craniosacral therapists. And I I don't have the 5-year vision yet, other than kind of the big picture of what I'd like, which is what I was just saying.
Okay. And what are some of the big contraindications, would you say, with craniosacral therapy?
Pretty much what I was mentioning before about the fluid pressure changes, because we're, even though we're just using 5 grams of pressure, or gentle pressure, 5 grams as a guide, just gentle pressure on people, we're still making changes in the nervous system, and you can still make significant changes in the membrane system around the brain and spinal cord, and as a result, you can change fluid pressure. And you just really want to avoid anything where changing that can be detrimental to the person, because you just don't want to take that chance. Again, strokes, hemorrhages, any kind of bleeds, aneurysms, things like that. You just stay away from cranial work altogether until it's stabilized. If someone had a stroke 6 years ago, but everything's stable in there, then sure, absolutely, go ahead and work on them. The one thing I always tell people is, if you have any questions about stability, talk to the doctor, find out what their comfort level is as far as when the person's going to be stable.
And I know a lot of doctors kind of don't understand this. I mean, do you have to give them even a brochure, or have them contact you in order to really understand it then?
You can try that. In my experiences, most doctors get so much in the mail that you've got about 5 seconds to grab their attention, and they just, I'm not saying that doctors don't have that they're not open to it, because a lot are, but what I've found is that it more comes from clients. If you get the client who's all of a sudden making change, that the doctor might sit up and take notice. But to try and, market to the doctor, I don't think that's necessarily gonna happen.
Okay. But even to get permission to give somebody a cranial work, I mean.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it's a question of comfort level inside yourself of, to talk to the doctor and just say, look, I need 10 seconds of your time, because this is your client and they've just had a stroke, or they're just recovering. Are you comfortable with this? And you can't let them kind of blow you off of like, oh, well, yeah, you're not really doing anything anyways. It's like, you know what? You may not believe it, but actually stuff is happening, and this is your client, your patient, and get them to realize that you're putting the ownership back on them. And then that usually is enough for them to sit up and say, you know what, don't do it for another 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever it might be. And then sure, sometimes they might actually say, do you have a flyer, do you have a brochure, do you have a website that I can take a look at?
Okay. So yeah, that definitely help. And with craniosacral therapy, I mean, do you ever see 2 therapists actually perform craniosacral therapy out in the field? I know in classes you do, but out in the field, do you ever hear about that? I mean, there's like forehand massage and stuff.
Just random fields where people are practicing in.
Yeah.
Green pastures.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Multi-hands work is great for many reasons. It can really, if you've got a restriction pattern or a system of restrictions within the person's body, by getting more than one therapist working on you, it's like you can get access to both ends of the restrictions, or all the different ends of it, and help it release. And then it gets the entire system, and helps the whole compensation leave the body. It's the intensive programs you mentioned during the intro they're such a great way to work, because you get people on the table, and you can have, one definitely, but sometimes you can have up to, 3, 4, 5 people working on one person. And, that might sound overwhelming. It might not, but it's great because you can just help the body let go of so much on a very deep level. And I won't say relatively quickly, but it can really be efficient sometimes because you're able to just get all different ends of the compensation and restriction.
And what is your biggest success story with craniosacral therapy?
I think one person I can think of, I remember when I lived in Toronto. I grew up in Toronto, and I had the woman I worked with. She called me on like a Saturday and said, "You know what? I know you don't usually work on Saturday, but can you see a friend of mine's husband? He's having back pain." So I was like, "Sure, I can do that." And he came in, and I worked on him for for an hour, but 5 to 7 minutes into the treatment, all of a sudden he like jumped up off the table, and I was like, "What you doing?" And he was almost running around my treatment room saying, "I have no more back pain." And it was cleared up in that first 5 to 7 minutes. And then I saw him a little bit after that, and I've heard recently, 5 years ago, that he still has no back pain. So that was really cool. But as far as, success for me, and success is what is successful to the person. The person that all of a sudden has the vertigo goes away, or is able to walk better or use their arm again. And it's really an individual thing. I think on every client, it's just like, wow, look what you're doing. Look what you can do. You're able to, whatever, you've gotten over your fear of heights or your whatever it is. And for me, those are the individual success stories, are just people who find the reserves inside them or the resources to deal with whatever issue it might be.
Okay. And for craniosacral therapy, it typically is done supine in the face up position, but would you say it can be palpable in other positions too, even sitting or even the prone position? And
oh, absolutely, you can work on people, in wheelchairs, or if they're prone, you can get into the whole. If they're prone, you get hands on the occiput and sacrum, and you can work with the whole dural tube, and you can work on people while they're walking, on the bus, bringing boats, anywhere.
And I know some of my students, they have a hard time concentrating when there's music going on. Do you recommend not using music in the beginning at all with learning this, or?
I think that's a really individual thing. We don't use music. I think music sometimes can be distracting for people because it gives them an out, so they don't have to necessarily feel what's going on. But I know, sometimes music is exactly what people need. Music can really help take you and allow or give you permission to get into those places inside your body. If it's distracting to you, then don't use it.
And do you ever incorporate aromatherapy into cranial work? With the olfactory response and stuff? And
I personally don't, but I know people who do, and it works great for them. I have zero training with aromatherapy, other than it's lunchtime and I smell a burger.
Yep.
Aromatherapy, I've got a friend in Ireland who uses it, and she incorporates it into cranial work all the time, and is getting great results. So one of the great things, or one of the things I appreciate and like about craniosacral therapy, is that, it's a modality that can incorporate everything. So you can be doing it and then start doing your joint mobs, or move into acupuncture, or move into aromatherapy, or whatever it might be. you're tuning into the person's body and letting them show you exactly what needs to happen and what they need next.
Okay. And is it easier to feel the cranial rhythm to start off with somebody with a shaved head like yourself, or
just draw all the sutures on when I'm teaching?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be. Have you ever done that?
No, I've thought about it. I just never have, because I figured I'd accidentally like use the indelible marker, and then I'd have to go through the airport and I'd just be all covered in sutures. I just didn't feel like dealing with it. I'd rather go through with 10 webcams.
Yeah.
Clothing, hair, if you've got the right touch, it doesn't, I've worked on kids who've been wearing snowsuits. So, you can, with the right sensitivity level, with the right experience, you can work through hair, or just have the scissors and the razor and just shave all your clients.
Yeah. And what about for massage therapists, or even people who are interested in craniosacral therapy, the work that cannot sit still? Do you recommend them getting involved into actually learning craniosacral therapy? Is it something that's going to be really hard for them
to learn?
Yeah.
Maybe, the honest answer. But it depends on the learning model. It depends if I'm teaching a class, and if someone is going to learn by being at the back of the room and standing up and stretching, but they're still paying attention and they're taking it in, and that's what they need to do. As far as a client, it can really help releasing pressure on the nervous system can help get people further back in their body and allow them to relax a little more, and so they won't be sometimes as fidgety or as jumpy.
Okay. And then what about for research on craniosacral therapy? Where are some better places to look at research if people are interested in that?
My honest answer to that is I would contact the Upledger Institute. They've got lots of different articles, and there is research being done. There's a study out of, I want to say it's out of Duke. I could be completely wrong on that, but they're doing a study on TMJ, I believe, in cranial work. There was something that was making the rounds around Facebook about a month ago with craniosacral therapists, and something to do with fibromyalgia. There's also one of the instructors for the Upledger Institute, Mike Morgan. He has some kind of study that I believe he was involved with around cranial work, and I want to say it was Parkinson's. So there's little bits that are starting to get out there. The Institute's a pretty good clearinghouse for that, but you could also, at this point now, with Google, just Google researching cranial work, and something will pop up. You can also, I believe, you can also do searches on the NIH, National Institute of Health's website. I could be wrong, but I think you can do that.
Okay. And then, is there anything that we didn't cover about your new curriculum and stuff that you're going to be launching and stuff?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty. I think we hit the main points of it. It's going to be really small numbers, and it's a 2-year curriculum so that everybody can, you're staying with the same people through the entire program. So there's a real sense of community that's formed, and that's also going to help your learning. Instead of going into a class and not knowing anybody in this class, and then going to another class and not knowing anybody in this, people through the entire thing. They might be your friends. Maybe you've organized the whole thing together. So that really helps people relax. And, the continual support, I think we've pretty much covered it all. What I will say, if I can put a plug in here, if people want more information about our curriculum, if on our website, it's 6 letters, neccst.com. So it's like New England Center for Craniosacral Therapy, neccst.com. Right now we've got a splash page up there. So if you log on there, what we will do is you fill out the little form with your email address, and then you'll be taken right to you have to confirm that you've asked for the information to be sent to you, and then you can just once you do that, you'll be taken right to our whole curriculum page, which outlines all the 8 classes and everything that's involved in certification. And what we actually have for our program is an application process. So you need to actually fill out an application, and this is just to make sure that we can take a look and say, you know what, this is an excellent fit for you. You know, this program is going to be great. Or, you know, maybe we need to tweak it a little, or maybe we need to help you refocus, or, you know, maybe it's not the right program, although I doubt that, because I think it's good for everybody. But so that all of everything from the curriculum and the application and all of that is right on the website.
So
and our post.
So there's certifications, and is there different levels of certification then too?
Right now, we're just going to have the one level, and it is going to excuse me. It is going to encompass the entire 2 years. So how the certification will work is that it pretty much starts right away, and people will be gauging themselves and each other, how they're working and how much they're integrating the work. At the end of the first year, there will be some kind of review, maybe test might be too strong a word, but on everything within the first year. And then at the end of the second year, how the certification is going to work is that the last class, the 8th class, is the certification class, and you there's a written exam, which will be kind of a combination of multiple choice and true and false and some essay questions. Then there's a practical portion where you're going to be tested on everything from the 2 years and make sure that you really are getting it and understanding it and are really proficient at it. But also what we wanted to add in there, which is, again, something new, is a presentation. What at some point we kind of pick some topics, and it's not like it has to be an hour-long presentation, just a 15 or 20-minute presentation on some part of craniosacral therapy. Maybe it's a research study that you've done or you want to do, or, you know, the topics are endless. And what that will do is it will allow everybody else in the class to then kind of gauge how you're doing. Of like, you know what, you're doing really well. So the certification, instead of just becoming this one-sided, we say you're good enough, becomes this peer-reviewed certification, so that you know, based on everybody else in the class and the instructors and the staff, that you really know your stuff. So right now it's the one level.
And that's awesome. What about if, let's say the group is going really fast through things and they feel really confident stuff? Can you get it done faster than 2 years?
I am certainly open to that, and I think it's possible. One of the big pieces with, you know, learning anything new is there is an integration period where you just need to go and practice the work. And we see a lot of people in, you know, lots of different curriculums who just want to go through and take all the classes. And what seems to be happening with those people is they're not integrating it into their tissues. And when all of a sudden it comes time to work with, like, the emotional piece or the nervous system piece with us, they don't have enough of a grounding in the actual work to really fully embody and get it. So their level of therapy isn't as high as it could be. It's not as efficient as it could be. So, you know, yes, it's possible that we could move through it quicker, but I think it's more realistic that probably won't happen. And just so that we can make sure that everybody is really fully getting it.
Yeah, so that's actually a good thing. So I mean, So yeah, so people can really absorb it a lot more too. And you're going to require so much of outside practice of the craniosacral, and also the documentation of that too. And right.
Yeah, absolutely. People are going to have to, I'm not going to say that you all of a sudden you're in this curriculum, you have to just go become a craniosacral therapist, but we're going to require that you do X amount of treatments between each class. Like the classes are going to be scheduled that they're probably going to be somewhere between 3 and 4 months apart. And within that 3 to 4 month period, you need to practice a certain amount and document it. And most likely have your client just sign off on it that yes, you did this treatment. Excuse me. What will also be involved in there is some kind of reflection around what it's been like for you. So it's all a real, just a big growth piece that people are working on.
Okay. And then again, you can go to different areas of the United States. People are interested in this too. Then so.
Absolutely, yeah. If given that it's a 2-year format, it's not like I could be running 10 programs at once because my family would never see me and that. But it's which they might like every now and then. But you could easily have a few different programs running at once. So yeah, if somebody, if you're out there and you've got 12 people and you're in Arizona or you're in Washington or you're wherever you might be, let me know and we can absolutely put a program together. It could even be in a massage school or whatever group of friends. What I will say for whoever's listening within the New England region, we've got our very first class starting in March of 2011. And we're already open for signups. We've got people already starting to sign on, so the spaces are starting to fill for this. So if you're in the New England area, it's going to be in Burlington, and I'm expecting this to fill relatively quickly. So if you're at all interested, if you're all thinking about it, just send me an email, sign up, send the application in, and then we can get going, get you learning this stuff and from our model.
Okay. And then somebody asked, "Are you coming to Rochester, Minnesota?"
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you'll come. Yeah.
I will come to Rochester. I've never been to Rochester, Minnesota, but I've always wanted to go, and absolutely, yeah. I will come.
In the home and Mayo Clinic, so
everybody can help.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So it's been a pleasure tonight, David. And the thing is, I've been teaching craniosacral therapy, not the advanced like you. I mean, not that many hours, but we incorporate it into the massage curriculum that I teach right now. But it's really opened my eyes a lot to the different areas that you can get into too.
Oh, it's great. We work so much with everything from little kids, little babies who've just been born through to people who are transitioning out to the other side of wherever we're going, and post-traumatic stress and everything. And it absolutely open your eyes. And it's I've been doing this for 17, 18 years and love it because every day is different and every client is different, and there's so much learning that you can get out of it. And yeah, I really appreciate taking the time and being on your show, because I've love everything that you do, and it's great to be a part of it.
Oh, thanks, David. So again, if anybody wants to get a hold of David, so necct.com.
Yep.
And then also tomorrow I'll have this whole video rendered, so it'll be on YouTube, so the whole world can see it then. Okay.
Hey. Excellent.
Yeah.
And then first Rochester, Minnesota, then the world.
Yep. Yeah. You got to start somewhere. Yeah.
You do.
But just not Rochester during the winter. It's really cold.
Yeah, think it's summer.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, David.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan.
And thank you for everybody viewing in. Pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.